So, okay. So, well, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at this session of our Global Lecture Series. Today's guest is Mr. Marquis Cabrera. He is the CEO of Start Zero Group and member of the World Economic Forum's Future Global Council on Augmented Reality and Virtual Reality. He is also former IBM's global leader of digital government transformation. And today's topic is special economics zones, special jurisdictions, and impact investing. Marquis, thank you again for being with us today. And whenever you're ready, we are ready to hear you.
Can you enable screen share?
Yeah, just give me a second. And you can try it now.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, awesome. It's an honor to be here today and to present. Thank you, everyone who has had their hand in setting this up and getting the presentation together. I know that many people will start watching this and or have watched it later. So today I'm here to talk about how to build a smart world with StatZero and like how that ties into special economic zones. So our world is full of grand challenges, so many different ones. And many of our leaders don't know how to tackle some of those grand challenges that we face today, right? 1 billion people without access to shelter, so many million people without sufficient food, millions and millions of people. And what we need to now do is, how do you come up with new ways of solving these problems? So I recruited an amazing team of folks from all sorts of different sectors, from the technology sector, the social impact sector, the global trade sector, many lawyers with technical skill sets who are utility players, to focus on how do we actually create change. And what we realized was that between when I was at IBM, well before the pandemic, 4,000 or 40% of families have $4,000, less than $4,000 in their bank accounts between Europe and North America. So we knew any snafu to the economy, yet alone a global pandemic, was going to send the economy reeling. However, IBM and many of the Microsofts of the world, their primary portfolio is banking and insurance, and their teams usually have long backlogs where the public sector, due to their buying mechanism and being slower, just takes more time or gets deprioritized. So you can't really be at your best solutioning. So what I thought was, how do we actually create a model for continuous innovation structure where we're focused on impact, right? Using technology. So StatZero is related to our statistical zero, to statistical zero for the UN SDGs, in so much that we want to help champion the UN SDG goals. It's also technical, right? In so much that we talk about zero knowledge proofs and statistical zero being verified, what the verify is saying. So it had this impact techie focused brand. Our brand was created by Kevin Durant and the folks who created the Boardroom, and Ben Watson's brand and Blake Griffin's brand. So we're really excited for StatZero and what we've been able to create. So today, StatZero is an award-winning global smart government investment platform company. We focus on creating sustainable investment projects and case studies for our partners to invest in. And how does that tie directly into special economic zones? We believe that today we're on a mission to create and build an inclusive digital economy. There was a Milwaukee mayor who said, hey, we need digital jobs. How do we transform our economy and have purely digital jobs? Many people don't know how to set that up, what that looks like, how to create that kind of economic development using new technology tools. So what we've done is create a model to anchor folks, right? So there was a traditional economy where it was more of a production-focused economy, making and selling things, agriculture, the state of nature, Lord of the Flies, Piggy with his conch, right? Then we moved into the emergence of the internet, which was more of an organized society leveraging informational information as far as like the Industrial Revolution, right? Moving from to that makerspace society, moving to that knowledge economy. And so now we're in this place where we have access due to the internet to so much knowledge at the tips of our fingertips. I remember being in college and asking a professor, like, hey, when are we going to learn this? And she was like, wait till grad school. Kids nowadays, you're seeing get PhDs at 16 years old, which is pretty incredible because of the access to information. So can we use that access to information and create many opportunities such that everybody can have a good paying and living wage and live in a society where their skills and is contributed to society in a way that's meaningful. What we've realized is that special economic zones, which are significant, and investing in them can create jurisdictional arbitrages or regulatory arbitrage that would ultimately lead to the new creation of opportunity. Opportunity. We're seeing that with opportunity zones. We're seeing that with refugee camps where SEZs have been used. We've seen it as special economic zones be used to create opportunity, a new technical opportunity in Shenzhen. I saw it with folks and my clients in Dubai with the government. They created a special economic zone in this new city called Neom. So there's many different opportunities. And how do you enable those without leveraging the special economic zones, which is the topic of conversation. So we invest in smart solutions, smart services, and smart infrastructure. I'm here today because I know we're supposed to talk about special economic zones and investing in special economic zones. The reason why you would invest in a special economic zone is due to jurisdictional arbitrage, in so much that you can look to the model of Estonia or Delaware, which most companies are incorporated or they came in because of the ability to have special classification, or Hong Kong prior to this year. So we invested recently in a company in Mexico, which could allow us to enable jurisdictional arbitrage in the climate and pollution space. My partner on the phone, Sylvie, who's focused on investing in the LATAM markets, I'll let her just talk quickly about our investment in the LATAM market in climate and pollution space, specifically focused on that opportunity.
Okay, right, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Can hear you perfectly, Sylvie.
Perfect.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están?
Hola Silvia, ¿qué tal?
Bien, ¿les hablo en español o lo quieren en inglés? ¿Cómo quieren que les explique lo que estamos haciendo?
Si lo quieres compartir en español para el público mexicano, muchísimo mejor, pero como te sientas cómoda.
Sí. Bueno, si me toro, les digo en inglés, ¿qué les parece?
Perfecto.
Bueno, mira, les quiero platicar de la oportunidad que tengo con Stat Zero. Le quiero dar las gracias a Marquis. Ya tenemos casi un año trabajando juntos. Yo estoy en Silicon Valley. Yo tengo una aceleradora que se llama Manos Accelerator, donde los enfocamos en los emprendedores latinos, ayudándoles a crecer y escalar sus empresas de alta tecnología. Entonces, aquí los invitamos, todos los emprendedores que vengan en Silicon Valley con nosotros, y los estamos dándole asesoría y conectándolos con toda la gente que tenemos en nuestras redes de inversionistas, de mentores, bueno, de mucha gente que sabe mucho de esto, y el ecosistema que tenemos nosotros es bien desarrollada. Entonces, nosotros ya tenemos 7 años haciendo esto y hemos tenido más de 165 emprendedores aquí con nosotros que vienen de muchos países latinoamericanos, pero mayoría llegan de México. Yo soy mexicana-americana, mis papás son de México. Yo nací aquí, me crié aquí, soy ingeniera química, yo también trabajé para IBM. Y bueno, desde allí yo arranqué una empresa, nadie me ayudó con fondos, con mentores, que nada, yo la vendí y entonces me puse a enfocar y comenzar una aceleradora, porque desgraciadamente aquí en Estados Unidos, donde estamos aquí en Silicon Valley, menos de un porcentaje de emprendedores latinos reciben capital. Entonces nosotros queríamos cambiar eso y gracias a Dios ya está cambiando. 30% de los emprendedores que vienen con nosotros están levantando capital. Bueno, siéndoles la larga historia, lo que ha pasado es que ya vamos a arrancar un fondo con Stat Zero. Nosotros tenemos un fondo que se llama Manos Capital, donde vamos a invertir en emprendedores mexicanos, latinos, y tenemos ya un caso en León, Guanajuato, donde vamos a invertir en una empresa que se llama Ecolab. Y esa empresa está en León, Guanajuato, reciclan plástico para que el plástico no lo vayan a mandar no sé, donde lo van a enterrar en la tierra, o va a estar en el mar, ¿no? Contaminando todo. Entonces lo que estamos haciendo es, nos gustó esta empresa porque lo que pasa es que reciclan el plástico de muchas empresas industriales como Nestlé y los demás, y crean láminas para materiales, construir casas, ¿no? Casas, construían diferentes muebles, bueno, de muchas cosas. Este material es muy, muy durable, digo, el sol, si llueve, no le hace nada al material. Y el material pueden hacer escuelas, ya han hecho escuelas en diferentes partes de México. También han hecho construyendo unas casas, y vamos a estar con esta empresa porque pensamos que hay una oportunidad enorme en todo alrededor del mundo de la contaminación de plástico. Entonces, Marquis y yo tuve un evento en San Miguel de Allende en febrero del año pasado y me llevé 10 inversionistas. Uno fue Marquis y él vio 10 equipos mexicanos que presentaron enfrente de nosotros, y como 3 startups levantaron capital de ese evento. Pero nosotros estuvimos muy interesados de Ecolab porque lo que está haciendo Marquis de ser una inversión que impacta el mundo, que impacta el medio ambiente, y Ecolab los llamó la atención, y entonces vamos a invertir en ellos. Vamos a tener una fiesta muy grande, están invitados para inaugurar la fábrica que se abre el 27 de este mes.
Magnífico. 27 de noviembre entonces.
Sí, el gobernador está confirmado que va a inaugurar la fábrica. Va a ser la primera que vamos a poner en México. De allí vamos a tener fábricas por todo el mundo. Pero la primera va a estar allí. Vamos a abrir otras en México también. Y Habitat for Humanity está muy convocado con esto. Y el equipo es muy, muy bueno, muy, muy dedicados, lo que hacen, expertos en reciclar plástico. Entonces va a ser una experiencia bonita para nosotros, y va a ser nuestra versión de Manos Capital. No sé si hay algo más. Marquis, is there anything else you would like me to share?
No, I think that was good. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what we were doing and then open it up for questions, so that way you could answer some questions or I can answer some questions.
Okay. I don't know how much time I have, but I think I gave them a summary of what we're doing as fast as I could. Sí, eso es lo que estamos haciendo, y tenemos dos más empresas. Y les digo, yo le enseñé a Marquis todos los emprendedores que han venido al programa de nosotros, y cuando les presenté los equipos en México, entonces estaban muy sorprendidos que el talento mexicano es muy bueno, puede competir con cualquier emprendedor alrededor del mundo. Entonces yo estoy muy orgullosa que también vamos a invertir en 2 más equipos aprendedores que están en México.
Es una maravillosa noticia. Silvia, ¿nos quieres, digo, todavía tenemos tiempo, ¿quieres compartirnos un poco sobre estos otros dos proyectos?
Sí, mira, lo que estamos haciendo ahorita es poco privado, pero si no, no sé si, Marquis, would you want me to tell them about the other two companies? Is that okay? Okay. Sí, tenemos dos compañías. Una que se llama Urge Gas, no sé si los conocen, son de la Ciudad de México. El otro aprendedor vive en Utah. Los estoy ayudando muchísimo bueno, la noticia grande de ellos es que ya tienen clientes grandísimos en Estados Unidos y van a fabricar sus sensores en Tijuana. Esto es una empresa donde tienen sensores en tanques grandísimos que están midiendo el nivel de gas. Entonces es para industrial, es B2B. También van a salir con un producto para B2C y van a arrancar en Estados Unidos, luego vamos a arrancar en México y vamos a disrupt el mercado mexicano porque es como un service as a gas y tiene una plataforma de software y también está conectado con Alexa. Entonces, si tú tienes Alexa en tu casa, tú puedes hablarle a Alexa y Alexa te va a decir qué es el nivel de tu tanque en tu casa. No tienes que subir, te da el nivel a tu teléfono o te lo da Alexa preguntándole. Y también lo estamos haciendo acá en Estados Unidos. Ya tienen como 10 clientes listos para darles contratos grandísimos. Y los dispositivos estaban manufacturándolos en la China. Fueron mucho a la China. Y yo conozco el gobierno que es la manufactura de Tijuana. No sé si han ido a Tijuana, que está creciendo muchísimo de tecnología. Tengo muchos aprendedores de esa área. Y entonces yo conozco la gente que trabaja para el gobernador de Baja California. Y ahí les mando todos los startups de manos y les mandé los chavos de Urge Gas, ya fueron para allá. Y hay una empresa japonesa que hace los sensors para los carros de Tesla. Ellos vieron la tecnología, tienen el patente, les revisaron todo y ellos van a fabricar los sensores y ya no tienen que regresar a la China. Perdón. Ese es Urge Gas. Muy interesante. Yo tengo ya 2 años apoyándolos. Esa es una empresa que vamos a invertir. La otra se llama Homely. No sé si ustedes han escuchado de esa empresa en la Ciudad de México. Es una empresa ya generando ingreso y ellos hacen limpieza de casas. Y ellos tienen limpiezas de edificios grandes y de casa. Y ellos tienen una plataforma de tu celular donde tú puedes pedir a alguien que te venga a limpiar. Y están creciendo muchísimo. Tienen un programa que arrancaron porque el COVID ya están desinfectando todas las empresas grandes de la Ciudad de México antes que la gente regrese al trabajo. Y ellos tienen una CEO, una latina increíble que está manejando esa empresa. Los encantó Melina. Y ella vino a mi programa aquí y le vamos a invertir porque vemos que puede crecer la empresa. Y tiene mucha oportunidad de hacer más cosas de nomás limpieza. Esa es la otra empresa que vamos a invertir.
Sylvia is obviously our expert in all things Mexico.
Bueno, viajo mucho a México porque mayoría de los emprendedores no más vienen de Estados Unidos y hay muchísimos que vienen de todas diferentes ciudades de Estados Unidos como Texas, Florida, Nueva York, Arizona, y aquí en California, pero también vienen muchos de México y como soy mexicana, los apoyo mucho porque veo que necesitan mucha ayuda, entonces aquí mi equipo los ayuda conectándolos con la gente que les puede apoyar. Entonces, muy importante, ¿no? Es que tenemos un bridge que les digo, que pueden venir e ir y tenemos esa conexión con Silicon Valley, que es muy importante. Yo veo que podemos crecer la riqueza en nuestro talento que tenemos en México, pero desgraciadamente no hay muchos inversionistas. Yo pienso que hay como bueno, no tantos como hay aquí, pero tenemos que cambiar eso y eso es otro tema que estoy trabajando con Marquis, pero la primera cosa es ya arrancar con nuestro fondo, que vamos a tener eventos en México. Un año vamos a estar en México y revisando todos los aprendedores y vamos a tener una oficina en San Miguel de Allende, es mi favorita ciudad donde vamos, y allí vamos a invitar a todos los aprendedores de México que vengan a conocernos.
Muy bien, Silvia. Ahí quisiera aprovechar un poquito, ya que rompimos un poquito la dinámica. I want to ask you, both of you, quickly, how StatZero helps Manus Capital beyond the capital injection? I mean, is there something about transferation of knowledge or something more than just capital injection? ¿Hay algo más allá? Decía, más allá de la inyección de capital, ¿qué es de qué manera StatZero ayuda a Manus Capital en este sentido?
Marquis, you want to answer that?
I was going to give it to you, Sylvie.
Okay. All right, let me answer it. Yo pienso que lo que ha ayudado StatZero a Manus Capital es que tuve 3 meses con StatZero, que tuve 3 meses de aprendimiento de cómo manejar un fondo. Yo nunca he manejado un fondo, es mi primera vez. Entonces, cómo hacer due diligence, cómo todo lo que tenemos que hacer para una empresa que venga a pedir capital, cómo es que lo tenemos que revisar, cómo vamos a evaluar el riesgo, ¿no? Porque siempre es el riesgo que no tiene que estar tan alto. Entonces, 3 meses fue intensivo de tener muchos expertos del equipo de StatZero que me hicieron entender cuándo y cómo vamos a revisar una empresa. Y también cómo StatZero tiene las conexiones por todo el mundo, no nomás aquí, tienen fondos en otros países. Y eso es muy importante porque nuestros aprendedores pueden tener oportunidades en otros gobiernos que están buscando esas soluciones. No más gobiernos, pero empresas grandísimas que están buscando tecnología, pero no saben, no lo pueden desarrollar en sus empresas y ven equipos de esa tecnología y pueden darles oportunidades de crecer en esos países. Entonces, eso son las cosas que StatZero fue muy importante.
Perfecto, muchísimas gracias por respondernos. Ahora otra pregunta que tenemos es si nos podría dejar en la parte de los links algún apartado donde podamos encontrar mayor información de su página.
Perdón, ¿estás hablando de StatZero? ¿Hello?
No, está hablando de Manus Accelerator.
Oh, tenemos una página, ahorita es la más viejita que tenemos, no hemos todavía arrancado todo nuevo. Como les digo, esto es todo muy nuevo. Estamos en transición porque yo ya tengo un equipo nuevo, alguien que va a manejar la aceleradora, se llama Oscar García, y ya vamos a arrancar con una página nueva y esa página nueva va a anunciar el Manus Capital, el fondo capital. Entonces, eso va a cambiar muchísimo, pero tenemos una página que se llama manusaccelerator.com.
Perfecto, Silvia, muchísimas gracias. Monse, estás hablando, no te escuchamos.
Sí, disculpen. Perfecto, entonces los podremos encontrar en sus páginas web para poder darles mayor difusión en nuestras páginas. Y también tenemos otra pregunta que está relacionado justamente con el tema que tuvimos ayer, en la parte de cómo funcionan estas startups dentro de estas zonas económicas especiales. Si nos podrían platicar un poquito más del rol que tienen estos emprendimientos.
Marquis, can you answer that? Did you understand what she said?
Yeah, I understood what she said.
Okay.
Sylvia, I just think you're better off at explaining to her what she's asking. So I'm going to throw it.
Okay. Don't worry about it. Ok, si te quiero revisar lo que estás preguntando a ver si te puedo contestar exactamente lo que estás buscando. ¿Tú estás hablando de zonas económicas?
Sí, especiales, sí.
Ajá. Mira, lo que está pasando en estas zonas es que los gobiernos que ponen estas zonas en diferentes partes de su país, hay muchas ventajas. Por ejemplo, impuestos. Por ejemplo, te dan dinero, te dan fondos para crecer la economía y dar empleos a las personas que viven alrededor. Un ejemplo, no sé si ustedes han visto a una ciudad en la China que se llama Shenzhen.
Sí.
Eso es un ejemplo de lo que pasó allí. Entonces ellos crecieron en su ecosistema de manufactura. Entonces hay muchos emprendedores y hasta hay emprendedores que han estado con nosotros en Manos Accelerator que se fueron a Shenzhen porque les ofrecen muchas ventajas. Les presentan las manufacturas, les dan contratos, les dan dinero. Eso es un ejemplo donde los gobiernos ponen una zona en sus países y no te cobran renta si tienes un edificio allí. Bueno, muchas ventajas. Y eso lo que está buscando StatZero, con contratos así que tienen los gobiernos en diferentes países. ¿Es that correct, Marquis?
Perfecto, muchísimas gracias. Igual no sé, Ángel, si tenemos más preguntas por parte de la audiencia.
Yo tengo una pregunta. I have a question for Marquis, and I have to be clear with this. What about the risk involved in these large-scale digital transformations? Specifically about the risk involved in digital transformations in public sector, because maybe the cost of implementation of some digital ways of improvement, the process can be more expensive for public sector than private sector. What about this situation, and how, for example, StatZero kind of companies can do something about it?
Absolutely. I think that's a good question. So I don't know how to say digital transformation in Spanish in some technical terms, so I'm going to say it in English in my response, but I'm going to give you a presentation I just presented just to root you in context of what you just said, right? So when I was at IBM, I led a $9 billion portfolio where global governments were my clients. So all over the world, global governments in Middle East and Australia were my clients. So it is hard to do digital transformation, but I want to normalize digital transformation in public sector. So digital transformation takes time and innovation takes time, and here it's in years. And then a digital transformation varies, or digital transformation enabling event varies in order of magnitude. So an example is an agency programmatic adherence is very different from a countrywide law change to a technology introduction in a business. So you first have to locate where you are on that mechanism and scale to understand how to move. But we have all, including all agencies, have experienced some sort of digital transformation. We previously were doing things with papers and beepers. Now we're doing them with cell phones. We previously went to Blockbusters. Now we're going to Netflix. So we've all had some change over the course of the last decade that we've all experienced to normalize it. But agencies themselves also go through change, and these are some of the enabling events. An example is, you're absolutely right, it is expensive to have a digital transformation change. So oftentimes you need to have a collective digital transformation change, which requires private placement. So we work with, you asked earlier, what do we do to help Manos Capital, right? So an example is like with blockchain, right? we are consultants and we work with tech corporates to actually take what they do. An example is one of our technology partners will call and say, I have a contract of $100 million. Do you guys have startups that could meet that, can meet some of that gap analyses? Then we then go look at the situation, understand the problem, figure out whether or not we have the tech enabler, and then we come up with solutions, right? So an example of solutions would be global field awareness, global opioid awareness, and global homeless response. It starts though with the situation, then moves to the problem. You start thinking about the application of the technical enabler, and then that gets you to a solution, and then that gets you to a public sector integration. Right now, every government is trying to reinvent themselves. Every government is in a competition to figure out who's going to capture markets. Mexico wants to be now focused on sustainability. You're seeing Sweden trying to focus on sustainability. So they're giving 45% funding towards startups as long as industry gives the other 45. So all Stat0 is doing is working with government clients to figure out how much they're going to invest. And then we're either co-investing with them or enabling our network to invest with them in growing that economic development. We have frameworks, we're a consultancy that runs Fund to Instrument. So that's how we help Manos, is we help her startups get to where they're trying to get to. We help them, we're gonna help, for example, Ecolem or Ecolem go to countries like Thailand and implement their technology, which ultimately helps the Mexican economy grow because now it has a vehicle or instrument for tax through jobs and new job creation, which also is beneficial to the country of Thailand. So we do see the arbitrage opportunity with the Mexican focused entrepreneurs and companies and new technologies being able to rival India in their workforce, as long as the workforce in Mexico can catch up and be enabled, which is why I'm excited and invested in Manos Capital.
Great, thank you. And just seeing this slide, I was thinking about blockchain and thinking about the ethics implications of using technology. What do you think about that? No? The use of technology like artificial intelligence or VR, for example, or blockchain, how these ethics implications of the use of this technology in solving social problems. What's your perspective on that?
If you're asking me directly, when I was working at IBM, I led our privacy and data ethics initiative to educate and upskill governments on how to roll out ethical AI. I have an initiative personally called wokedeveloper.com, which is focused on how do we help woke developers become more woke about developing technologies. I'll give you an example. So when I was I had a trade minister from a Middle Eastern country visit me, and he's a diplomat, but he was stopped in the airport. He kept freaking out, and he texted at the time Nikki Haley going, what the hell's going on? Like, why am I being stopped? And the reason why he was flagged is because the airport had just rolled out a brand new piece of technology. And in that technology, they had white faces or Aryan looking faces, not people of color. And so he was stopped. And so he was like, this is unacceptable. And he made a huge stink about it, right? They noticed the same thing in Denmark, where people of color were coming through, were being flagged more as a result, because the data being trained in Denmark was mostly on Aryan and white folks. And so it's a huge problem. And that's why Denmark, for example, created the data ethics and disruption councils, right? So that way you could bring together use cases. It really hinges on what is the implementation of the use case. What are you willing to what kind of inequalities do you want to avoid? How you pull together those models. If I was to get technical on you, it's all about you can take synthetic data and then train the model at the same time. There's things you need to be cautious about when you're training AI, because the model itself can start to inherently learn. When that happens, you have to start mitigating against some of the behaviors that AI then takes, almost like you're training a kid and then telling them no. And so without getting too technical, just to explain that in an analogous way. But there are some issues rolling it out. Right now, though, AI is only governed under the ADA. So we're only looking at task-focused AI anyways right now. So AI and machine learning can be best used in any kind of task-focused orientation, which is great because Goldman Sachs predicts that the construction economy is going to get up and get going, right? So how can you use robotics and automation in the construction industry moving forward? So there's a lot of areas where AI and task AI could be focused. I wouldn't get to the point where you're thinking about Skynet yet, because it's not there quite yet. We're not at general AI. But the narrow AI is still can have some great focus areas and applications and retail in so many different markets on a task, hotels in a task-oriented manner.
I see, perfect. So we have another question. It's for you, Marquis, and is related with this investment, for heat investment. And in your opinion, this could be a solution for the economy post-pandemic in a way to improve the competencies in different countries, or it can help us to have a better systems in a way to respond to all these pandemic, lockdown, whatever you want to name it. So what is your point of view in this specific point with all the foreign hate investment?
Yeah, I think I want to show you just a chart because I think that will highlight nicely what you just talked about.
Yes.
So let me just and I'll be very direct with you because every business needs to make money, right? Governments need to make money. Let me just
everywhere.
Yeah, every industry needs to make money.
Yes.
And so what StatZero does is we enable family offices, high net worth individuals, and pension funds to invest in building GovTech startup solutions, right? When you look at the current sector, you're seeing massive public sector infrastructure failure on the healthcare side. We just didn't have, and the reason why in the US, as an example, is we don't have the digital maturity, same with Mexico, same with many countries. The countries that actually have the digital maturity is Singapore, Denmark, and that reason why in MIA actually is because they're much smaller or they have more money. So they're able to buy faster the technologies to try and buy. So there's two things that happened, right? I had, when we were in Mexico, we had investors saying to us, hey, we want to put money into startup solutions, but how do we create impact and make money, right? The GovTech industry is $400 billion. So we said, there's a lot of room for you to make money as long as we can solution the right things that will enable, we can de-risk your investment by working with government. Government can put up money and they can also be the client. So if you can set up a model where government can be the client and government can be the buyer, all you're doing is just teeing up the opportunity for that investor to then invest in the right solutions. You're just trying to then find the solutions. So StatZero and what we focus on is we recruit public sector tech startups. We do that with our partners in Africa, Gavin Rudin, who's running our Middle East and Africa. We do that with Sylvie, who's running LATAM. We do that with Dan Gordon, who's running Americas. We have some cross-segment plays because we represent a ton of athletes and sports entertainment folks. So we have a sports and society partner, and then we have our special economic zone partner. So they source startups and projects that we then have line of sight to. Then together we finance those solutions with our investor networks. We have a network of folks who want to deploy about $1 trillion over the next 9 months into startup solutions. So then what we do as a value add is then we then take those solutions and we solution leveraging the portfolio with the tech corporates, as I said before, leveraging them as a channel in their contract vehicles. So it ultimately gets us in the door and we work with them. But how we are, what we're doing ultimately though is we're a managed services and a professional services firm. So for startups, Sylvie, we offer global startup investments. So if there are startups that meet our criteria for investment, we will consider them, make investments in them. We give startups global market access. So if you want access to net new markets, we can give you those. We have global celebrities all over the world who can champion our startup portfolio. We have a solution in the portfolio that's being championed now by a member of the NFL Congress, which is raising $300 million for a social equity fund. So, and then for our startups or for our investors and corporates, we consult them on how to create digital transformation case studies. As I showed you the model before, we consult them on diversity and impact, because recruiting people of color, specifically folks from the Latinx community, is super important to me. I'm biracial. My mom's from Puerto Rico. Most people think I'm Black, but my mom's Puerto Rican. And then impact and GovTech. And then we offer ecosystem as a service. So, but ultimately we're consulting and then getting folks to come up with opportunities to support and work with us, leveraging our global network. And that's really the value add. So we have a global model we're implementing. It just COVID, you probably would have heard about it much faster. Just is taking a lot of time to kind of get to market in this COVID environment, given that you have to then figure out a digital go-to-market strategy. Or Sylvia and I would have been in Mexico already.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. And yeah, here the people, many people don't know how it exactly works, and especially economic zone. So that is very important, and that's the reason why we make this event for all our audience. And then we are going to say another question that Angel has another question.
Yeah, thinking about this digital maturity you were talking about a few minutes earlier, how we can improve this digital maturity in our countries, especially in Latin America, for example, by taking or helping these public sector tech startups. I'm not thinking about even tech companies, but tech startups. How can we improve this digital maturity on the government side? Because one thing is to go from paperwork and all that stuff, and now doing it in a digital way. And the next step is to be thinking about electronic government and digital solutions and blockchain solutions and etc. How can we help this the improvement of this digital maturity?
I think that's a great question, Angel. And I think I'll let Sylvie give a talk right after me on the context specifically locally. But I'll just start with it requires community, right? And it really does, because in business, usually most people are what's in it for me, right? Because they're required to feed their people, to make sure everybody's taken care of, families are taken care of. So you also have to meet the bottom line. And oftentimes that people just don't either have the time, they can't create the community, or they're only focused on their own initiatives or their own goals. So what we created at Stat Zero was Club Zero, which is an exclusive global impact investment marketplace. Club Zero so far, we've recruited over 1,000 startups who were able to get global market access, legal services, celebrity access. We've recruited, we have tons of investors in our network focused with us on, for example, we're working on a deal in Africa where we teed up $100 million investment from some folks in the Nordics to match a government investment in Africa. So those are the opportunities that we can bring to bear. What we realized, I'll give you an example that'll make a lot more sense as it pertains to governments, is in South Africa, as an example, 40% of their population has college degrees. So they're rich in talent, but they're super young. So they're between 20 to 35. So they're still really young. So that means they're craving job opportunities, and they're getting annoyed because they believe the foreigners are coming in and taking their jobs, right? So, and when you look at that, you say, okay, their GDP was low due to lack of investment in R&D, so research and development, and then a lack of SME growth, so small, medium enterprise business growth. What we can do then is say, if you can give us a private placement, right, we'll teach you how to create a local job market leveraging our own portfolio. So similar to what was done in Oman, Oman took the concept of Grubhub from the US and created Souk, and Souk went public in like a very short period of time. So you can almost create new job markets as long as the technology or the solution has been proven. So StatZero has, what is it, probably about 10 to 15 solutions on the shelf that we've created that can help to be used to create time and materials models around, or purely digital jobs around. But what it again requires is for learning, it requires for folks to understand how to create community. If you don't know what special economic zones are, we have Joe McKinney giving an amazing talk as a part of our COVID series to talk about how COVID could help, or special economic zones can help advances through COVID and beyond. And if you join Club Zero, you can have access to that content and material. But all we're really doing with Club Zero is giving folks access to DIY tools, right? How do you go on and learn by yourself, create your own syndicates underneath us? It cost us $2 million to get our vehicle set up in a lot of time. How can you leverage us as a service to be able to set up those vehicles, create impact? We can teach you our impact methodology. You can adhere to our impact methodology. You can stress test it with us. So the investors in Mexico who are saying, hey, I want to invest, we own a holding company that creates sheets of plastic, right? So to give you an example, if you wanted to invest in Mexico, invest with us in projects for Ecolam, right? We can create Habitat for Humanity is focused on creating houses with them. They can create benches. They can create different siding for walls. Their technology is known as a prop tech. Given that it's plastic, they can actually have, it's better than steel because steel gets too hot. The American Realtors Association is trying to move away from steel. Bamboo gets too wet. So Ecolam is well positioned in that climate and pollution space. And I would argue the country of Mexico has to ask itself, what do I want to be famous for? Sweden is saying, I want to be famous for climate and pollution, which is why they're investing 45% in companies and then asking industry to invest the other 55. So Mexico has to say, what do I want to be famous for? Or what, from a grassroots perspective, what do the entrepreneurs in the country want the country to be famous for, such that they can rally and really drive investment, drive interest, and get off the ground. But again, that starts with the community. Sorry for the passionate answer. I was just so excited.
No, it was great. It was great. I think that's the most important thing when you're trying to transfer something that requires some public compromise, if I can put it in that word. You need that kind of community impulse, right?
Absolutely. But the community, the issue though is everybody's coin driven. So you have to see the startups come because they need the services or the know-how to get money, right? So it's like, okay, I can come get money. The investors are coming because they want to come to get great deals and to gain access to minority entrepreneurs who know how to kill it. And we're training them with Sylvie's access and her accelerator to kill it. The governments are then saying, I need scalable projects, and we're ensuring the scalability of that project. So it's just a nice model, but everybody has to be, what's in it for me and how do you account for that? IBM, for example, struggled to do that because they were an incumbent company, so you can't just rip and replace incentive structures. That's really hard to do from a governance perspective. So what we had was we were able to start from scratch on governance and really create that innovation structure, working with Sylvie to help improve Mexico and other countries and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you, Marquis. Thank you, Sylvia, for these interventions. And I want to ask you if you have anything more for closing remarks. Silvia, algunos comentarios finales antes de pasar al final de la charla. Marquis, some closing remarks.
I'm super proud and impressed with the entrepreneurs in Mexico. I think you guys are just straight hustlers. And I hope when you watch this, you know that you have global support. You have people who look like you, who speak like you. I speak that Boricua Spanish. I just can't speak GovTech speak, so which is why I'm choosing to speak English. So I can still understand what Sylvie's saying, and I'm really proud of all you guys. And all we want to do is provide support. If you need support, again, join Club Zero. reach out to us, let us know your needs. We can figure out how to best provide that support. But all we want is for everybody to be successful. We know that COVID is a trying time. We know that in the Latin households, unless you're a lawyer, a doctor, people like technology, but I hope a lot of Latino families come around this time and see business, technology. Those are the jobs of the future. Because when I first started in technology and business, my dad was like, go back to law school. So, so just to say that I'm excited and just want to provide support and tell you guys, pa'lante.
Thank you, Marquis. Thank you, gracias. Silvia.
Sí, aquí estoy. Sí, lo que les quiero decir es que estamos viviendo en unos tiempos muy interesantes. Estamos viviendo un mundo muy cambiando y tenemos que estar unidos y pensar cómo podemos mejorar nuestras vidas y tener la oportunidad de crear tecnología y crear riqueza en nuestra comunidad. Y tenemos que tener la mente abierta de cómo Estados Unidos ha hecho cosas aquí como en Silicon Valley, creciendo empresas de billones de dólares y cambiando el mundo en una manera buena. Y yo quiero que lo que estamos haciendo con StatZero, que lo que está haciendo Marquis Cabrera, lo podemos apoyar a México y que México siga adelante. Yo sé que hay muchos problemas con el gobierno de México, también tenemos muchas cosas aquí nosotros, pero si podemos trabajar juntos y crecer juntos y ver que México aprovecha todo lo que estamos ofreciendo nosotros.
Silvia, muchísimas gracias Marquis por haber participado con nosotros. Si me permiten, cierro entonces en español. Muchísimas gracias por haber estado con nosotros. Muchísimas gracias a quienes nos siguieron por la transmisión en Facebook. Y no se creen, seguiremos en contacto con ustedes. Por supuesto, nos interesa mucho seguir en contacto con ustedes, con Silvia sobre todo, y si podemos hacer algo sobre emprendimiento a más grande escala, pues tengan por seguro que estaremos buscándolos. Muchísimas gracias, Marquis, muchísimas gracias, Silvia, thank you very much, y pues gracias a todos por unirse y los esperamos en una siguiente transmisión. Muchísimas gracias.
Adiós.
Adiós.
Listo, ya terminé.